So this is when we went, March in, am I off my microphone?
No, we can hear you. Your picture is the static picture, not the live.
Okay, it was saying my microphone's off. Okay, so I do have a few things from other people, but they're mostly my pictures. So what we're looking is the southern Cape of Africa, really just this area right here. Here's Cape Town and Table Bay. This is False Bay right here, and we went all the way down to Cape Point and the Cape of Good Hope, which are the 2 points on this point. So it's actually not the farthest south, which would be this cape right here. But it is this area. We went out to Stellenbosch, was the farthest east that we went, but we were mainly in this area. And my host lived in this area along here, this southern bay on False Bay. Let me tell you a little bit about what the situation was. You saw the safari pictures, or some of you did, that followed this trip. We first had a week in Cape Town with the Cape of Good Hope Club. And there are three clubs in Cape Town. One is white, one is black, and one is colored. And we were with the colored club, and they live mainly in this south part of town. So this is our arrival. We came in from all parts of the world, literally from Germany, England, US, Canada, and Australia. So we were all on every airline that flies into Cape Town. So we agreed to meet at a certain time, and our group hosts met us at the airport. And coming out of the airport, this is what we had a view of immediately: the Cape of Good Hope, and the Table Mountain, I'm sorry. And it looks flat from here, but as you'll see a little bit later, it's not flat at all. In the foreground here, we have Robben Island, which of course figured with Nelson Mandela, which we'll talk about a little bit later too, which had been right on this area. So those were courtesy of Cape Town. A little bit of a history. The Portuguese were here first, but they didn't stay there. They may have had regrets about that later, because the Dutch came along 100 years later and actually put some colonists there and decided they need people to work the land and have some things to eat and supplies as their ships went around to Dutch East India. So what we know about Cape Town, it's the oldest and second largest city in Africa of about 4 million. It is the seat of parliament. It's hard to say what is the capital of South Africa, because the capital is also in Pretoria, and which is the president of the country, but also their Supreme Court is in still another city. So it's kind of an odd situation. So the first permanent settlement was by the Dutch in 1652. And then Britain captured it, and they had a couple of wars in between. I won't go into all of them, but eventually it ended up with England. But there is a large Dutch settlement there. And the National Party was the Black Party, which in 1948 won a platform against, I'm sorry, was not, it's the National African Party, which is the Black Party. But the White Party won a platform on apartheid in 1948, demolished a bunch of housing, which is just south of the downtown district, made it into an all-white district, moved all those people. We've heard that before with other governments. And apartheid was around then mainly through world pressure until 1993. And also the efforts of people like Nelson Mandela, who was then later elected the first Black president of South Africa. This is on a building, a picture of Mandela. So you get an idea of the racial makeup. Mainly Black is the biggest one. Colored would be the combination, you'll see, of imported people from various countries with the whites. And Asians, Indian Asians, very small minority, and whites, not very big majority. Languages show you the Dutch Afrikaans being the leading one, which our host spoke. Xhosa would be the Black languages. They were from indigenous people, English. Most of the South Africans also speak, even if they are of Afrikaans descent, they typically do speak English as well, though it's a second language for them. So they had hired a bus and a guide for us for the week. And here we are getting on our bus at the airport for our first lunch, we all arrived approximately lunchtime in all these different flights. And we had a lunch in someone's carport. So you see us gathered up and the president of the club giving us a welcome. This is my host right here, Ian Atwood. He was married to a second marriage to Hilda Cedras, my other host, his wife. And they were not in this house, but this is where we met every day to meet the bus because people were coming in from various places. Not everyone had cars and they weren't all equipped to drive all the different places that we went because we did put some miles on that bus. So we met at Norman and Liz's house every day. This is the house where my hosts live. I thought you'd be interested in seeing what a couple from South Africa's house looked like. And I'm not saying they all look like this, but my house did. I love those orange walls. It was a very compact little house, a 2-bedroom house with a living room and dining room in a sheltered neighborhood, a gated community, very nice. You see it's pretty dry. A lot of yards like Phoenix and that area, Arizona, didn't have grass. So that was typical. They did have little brushy areas, but typical for front yards not to have lawns like we might think. But it was a gated community. So of course they wanted to show us their beautiful city. And our first stop was down in the center city. And these are the places that we visited. This would be the Slave Lodge and the gardens and Parliament area of the Dutch East India Company. This would be the downtown area just driving through. We also spent some time at the Waterfront, which is a developed area, very nice, and Bocap, which was for the Muslims settlers in this area. So just a few pictures just driving through. You can see the evidence of English and Dutch architecture. This is again a painting, not the real Nelson standing on a gate, but he is visible throughout the city. Some lovely buildings, markets, and lots of indigenous things to buy here, street art, just a little idea of what it looked like. So our main first stop was at the Slave Lodge, which was originally the Supreme Court building. But it was turned into, after the Supreme Court moved to Pretoria, and it was it was changed into a museum to remember the slavery and where these people came from. Introduced to the Dutch East India Company from various places, because when they set up this GO station for ships rounding the Cape, this stopping place to refuel and get more food, the local people were not real interested in being slave labor, though they pretty much became that later on. But the Dutch East Company, as it says right here, discouraged the legal enslavement of the indigenous Khoisan people. So they wanted to find people who would work that land, raise vegetables and so forth, raise cattle for them. And what they did was go mainly to the East Indies to find these people. So this is a little floor plan and what the old Supreme Court building looked like back in those days. And it was refurnished into a museum about the slavery. So this is our guide, Anita, for the week. You'll see her a couple of times, and we're coming from around this Cape. Of course, I came from Portugal and from Netherlands later on, and originally came to find people from Madagascar and the east coast of Africa, later on to India and into Indonesia. So many of these people that came were of Indonesian descent. Another map again showing this kind of slave, where the slaves came from. And this building shows from different places things about the different countries that they were represented by. And the people that we stayed with were descendants of these people, mainly from Indonesia. Gives you a chart of what these slaves were just packed in like cordwood. And of course, death rate was very high on these ships bringing these slaves to South Africa, and a little model of that ship, of some of the ships, some of the ropes, places and names that they came from. This is, I think, an interesting exhibit, it shows the names of people, and they were named by the place of origin. You see Mozambique and Zanzibar and various places as a last name. And they might have a first name, Abraham, or something like that. They might know their first name and their last name would be where they were from, or the month that they arrived, or some combination of that. So they didn't even get to keep their own names in many cases. There are also many shipwrecks in that area. Of course, many slaves then lost their lives being in shipwrecks. And there's exploration now of some of these shipwrecks. We'll see a map of where they all are a little bit later. There are many African artifacts from many different countries because they did come from many countries. Here are some of the artwork and things that they've made. A couple of people who have figured in the South African history. One is Jan Smutz, who was a Dutch who fought in the Boer War, which I've not mentioned specifically. It ran from about 1899 1899 to 1902, kind of a little side war. After the British had conquered the country, there were some little dust-ups with the Boers who lived farther out, and they were brought into line. So he fought in that war, was a prime minister of the Union of South Africa, was a big proponent of apartheid. He also fought in Worlds I and II, probably one of the few people that have fought all in those three wars in the Royal Air Force. So just outside of the, excuse me, I'm going to have a drink of water. Just outside of the slave lodge is this big, looks like a basket, upside down basket. And it is the entranceway to a walkway. On this side of it, you see the Parliament, and this side, St. George Cathedral. Here's a little bit of St. George, and you see a map of the company's garden, the company being the Dutch East India Company. So this is this walkway, Parliament Walk, down to the company garden. And on our left side was the old Parliament building. The Prime Minister's home is also on this walkway. Also entertainers and various artists along there. So down about a block or two was the entrance to the company gardens. It's a lovely park with some native trees. It shows you the various things that are in the park, all kinds of restaurants and ponds and gardens of various sorts that you can see. A lovely place. Again, a statue of one of their generals, an interesting children's swing that they can climb in there, and it looks like a big bird's nest. Another statue of a famous person was Cecil Rhodes a little bit later. You would know him from Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe and Zambia, and also the Rhodes Scholar. He's that Rhodes. He was really the one who opened up the diamond trade. The De Beer diamonds are from Cecil Rhodes. And he was another advocate of white settlement. So our next excursion was to Table Mountain. One of the things we wanted to do early in the week, because it's often covered with cloud on the top, which they call its tablecloth. And of course, if you're up there in the clouds, you can't see any of the anything down below. So this Table Mountain was an early landmark for the Portuguese sailors that came around that bend. And as I said, it isn't really flat once you get on top of it, though it looks like it from here. And the Portuguese are known for their tiles too. So this is actually, that tile was on the wall of one of the wineries that we visited. So here it is with its tablecloth. And this little knob up on top here is actually where the cable car comes. It comes from about down to here. So there's a winding road that comes in, not a parking lot, as you can imagine, because it's all on the side of a hill. But cars park along this winding road for probably a mile. So to get there early enough, we went early in the day so our bus could let us off and turn around and find a place to park. Around 3,600 square feet. We didn't have time to see all of it. There's kind of a dip in it that we didn't go all of it, but we did get a chance to see this over about an hour or two.
Mary, before you go on. So a couple of years ago, our son and his wife went to South Africa, to Cape Town, and they hiked up to the top.
You can do that.
And they hired a guide, which if you're going to do it, you need to hire a guide. And then they took the cable car down.
Yeah.
And those of us that were listening to them talk about it thought we would have taken the cable car both ways.
Yeah, me being not one who does up very well, as I've told you many times, the cable car was definitely for me. Coming literally at sunrise, we had about an hour wait in the queue, so there were people there already, and you see how dark it's already when we got there. And as you get to the top, you'll see some of those trails, Kathleen. So yes, people do hike up. And there are lots of places to hike. As you can see, there are lots of mountains around. So we had some beautiful views of the sunrise on Table Mountain, or from Table Mountain, and beautiful views of the city, the waterfront, which we did another day. And you see here the cable car going up to the cable station at the top, built in 1929, and it was refurbished since then, so it's not really quite that old. And coming up to the station. So this is our quote flat tabletop, not exactly flat. So look at the number of species of plants and different floral things that you can see on top. There are things that grow on top of Table Mountain that don't grow anywhere else in the world. So that's an interesting part of why you would want to go there, not just the view, which of course is fabulous, but just because you'll see plants there that you've never seen before. Here is Robben Island out in the bay, Table Bay. And Radwan reminded me that today is the anniversary of Nelson Mandela's demise. He died on this day in 2013, which I didn't know. Another view from Table Bay. So there are lots and lots of pictures that you can take from here. You see the winding roads. And there are trails as well that come up all these different mountains. And this is toward the other direction, back over here toward Simontown. And you wouldn't think so, but there are little animals that live up there too. Now the baboons can be really nasty. They will bite you as soon as look at you, but so you kind of keep your distance from them. Of course, lots of birds as well. So we see that tablecloth coming, that cloud cover. And looking back the other way, again, some of these winding roads. And if you're climbing up through all these rocks if you're on a trail. There is a snack bar at the top and right near the cable terminal. This is looking off the other direction. We've been looking kind of this way. This is Lion's Head, another mountain that you can climb if you are so inclined. And looking out again toward the city. So we did get down to the waterfront, the Victorian Albert waterfront, which was built on land that was added on. Was a limited amount of flat land in that area. So this was a fill from their subway system that they made into this waterfront area. And I had this on my screensaver when I got on. And you notice a couple of buildings. There's hotels, there's entertainment area, there's several museums, marina. There's just a huge number of things going on. All kinds of things. There's a stadium, there's ice rinks, there's really just all kinds of shops. Really, we spent a whole day there and I didn't see everything there was to see. And this would have been where the boat to Robben Island left, which was supposed to be what we were supposed to do that day, but that didn't happen. This is the entrance to it, coming up some steps. And as you come up these steps, you're entering the harbor area. You see the pavilion we're going to see a little closer in a minute. The chocolate companies right here, and you can get little free samples if you want to go into that. And here's the ferry terminal to Robben Island. But look at this. It's very, very foggy the day we went, which was the following day, second day. And the boats don't go out in the fog. So we got a time for later in the afternoon, and that they didn't have enough time for all of us. So we got a time for another day. And another day, it was too rough and we didn't ever get to go. So there was a big hassle getting these. We had to make those arrangements from the US, and it was a big hassle to get the tickets, and then we were never able to go, unfortunately. So this is our fog in the bay at this time. So this is the Victorian Tower that we saw from way back as we're coming down the steps now on the other side. We're going to take a left over here and go over across the bay to the other side. First on this side, there was an interesting museum, and this is what it is, what it looks like from the outside. Picture, if you will, a bunch of Pringles cans and set 8 in a row, 8 by 8 by 8 all together, and tie them up with a rubber band. Okay, you got that picture? Then come in and cut it from the side. And that's kind of the way they did this. These were silos, grain silos. Each one of these was a silo. And they cut into these to make like this, to make floors along here. And the different floors in the museum that are cut into these 64 silos. You weren't allowed to take pictures, or I wasn't allowed to take pictures, I should say, in the museum itself, a lot of modern art. But in the atrium, in the entrance to it, it was about several stories high, as you see in this long silvery thing hanging there. So it's a very interesting building. Right around the corner from it is the Diamond Museum. Again, we visited a diamond museum, which is very interesting in all the different cuts and colors and so forth. So we're looking now at some of the harbor area and a bridge that goes across to the entertainment area. Again, filled with shops. And you'll see lots of African art. Some of this gray and white is Zimbabwe, but a lot of it is from South Africa as well. Lots of animal sculptures, which we see particularly in this picture. Lots
Mary?
of foods to buy. Yes.
That the whole harbor area in your pictures looks very tourist friendly.
It is.
Is there a different part of it that is more of the shipping,
Yeah.
like working type?
Right next to it would be where cruise ships come in, and these are more the marina, the smaller boats.
Oh, okay.
But yes, they do have the cruise ships, and all their commercial travel is just right next to it.
Okay.
But this area, yes, is the tourist area. So it's just lined with shops, and you can buy just about anything you want. Notice they have things for entertainment. The kids are here playing chess as real people. This ship was a Jolly Roger, one of the pirate ships. It was out here that you see the model of, like a model ship. But this is one that you could ride on. And we had somebody in our group named Roger. So I asked if he would stand up here and be our Jolly Roger. So he was obliging to that. Here's another little race recycling project. In case you can't tell what it is, this is Table Mountain and the town down below and the bay. So people put their junk on there and made a picture out of it. A little bit of Robben Island Museum is one place that you can visit there. These are drawings by people who were incarcerated there. It was used as a prison and then as a political prisoner for political prisoners for a long time. And then they were shipped out to Robben Island after that. A picture of Nelson Mandela, and of course died in this day, December 5th. Actually, it's yesterday. Oh no, it's today. I'm sorry, it's the 5th. Died in Johannesburg. So he was imprisoned altogether about 27 years, would not give up an inch. He was a political leader of the African National Congress, not to be confused with the National Congress. Political leader of the Black movement. It was a nonviolent protest. Remember, they were influenced by Gandhi, who had lived in South Africa for a while before he moved back to India. And after he was released, de Klerk was the president who ended it. He moved him to another prison with a lot better facilities. When they first moved there, he was there with a group of other protesters. The situation was really very bad there, and they went on hunger strikes, and they petitioned, and he wrote to newspapers and he did a lot of work while he was there. He ended up getting better treatment for them and better facilities, opening school. He got his law degree there. So they made good use of their time when they weren't working in the quarries and other things that they had in mind for them. So after his release, mainly due to this world pressure on them to end apartheid, he was released along with the rest of them, became the first Black president of South Africa. So it was a prison transit site for other people. There were women, there was a women's prison there, all kinds of other uses for it, but mainly a prison of some kind, all during that time. So in the area of the shops and all that we're seeing, there's the marina, there are these 4 Nobel Peace Prize. Albert Luthuli was also a member of the national, he was actually the president of the National African Congress. Desmond Tutu, de Klerk, and Nelson Mandela have their statues there, 4 Nobel Peace Prizes. So we're getting more into the entertainment area and the cafes and all this kind of stuff. Lots of things going on. So I want to see if our little video would work. See that back here? Okay, I know that's going to go on for a little while. These kinds of bands were really typical. We saw a lot of these around with Native people who were making instruments out of all sorts of things. So this is a really common thing to do. I'm going to get out of that. So we had lunch in that area, each of us on our own. We were able to go to different things. There was also an aquarium there. And as I say, the art gallery and several other museums. So we gathered up then later in the afternoon. This is a ship's figurehead that were typical in these sailing ships at that time. Hotel, if you're going to Cape Town, this would be a good hotel for you if you're interested in being in right in the downtown area and close to everything. So from there, we had a little time in the afternoon to go to Bo Cap, and notice how now that tablecloth has really covered this. So it's settled right against up the mountain, and it is a very colorful part of Cape Town. It's the oldest surviving residential neighborhood, and it was originally built for the Africans, the Dutch people, and also the colored people from Malaysia and from Indonesia. And it's the historical center of the Malaysian culture. It fell into some sort of disrepair, but it was rebuilt, not rebuilt, but refurbished, I guess you'd say, revived here. But this was a typically Muslim area. There were 4 or 5 mosques built, and this one is still standing, built in 1844. So these buildings are very, very colorful. They're all different. Each one is unique. This preservation began in the 1940s when 15 houses were restored. Now they're just blocks and blocks of them. And it's considered a really good place to live, kind of a Mondrian looking facade along here. Brick and cobblestones. This is one of the oldest houses. The very oldest house we didn't see, but it's the museum for the Indonesian Malaysian culture. Some street art here. You see more of the cobblestones and artists working. It's mainly residential, but there are a few shops in it, and you'll see this Cook Sisters available. There are different things that you can buy here, and this is their ad. This is one of the shops next door with a rather colorful outfit. But look at this. Things that you can buy wholesale and public to the traders. Traditional things, dried fruit, herbs, flour, different kinds of flour you can buy, different kinds of nuts and herbs and spices, incense sticks. It's the Atlas Trading Company. So they sell all kinds of things that you might like. And with a mixed population in Cape Town, there would be all kinds of different kinds of food. I know you, Kathleen, are interested in what people eat. Well, there's some ideas right there. There are all kinds of food. This is a sign in one of the windows, the Black Holocaust from 1619 to 1861. More than 15 million Africans were sold into slavery and over 35 million were killed by slave traders, making it the greatest Holocaust the world has known. So this is to call attention to the fact that there has been the slavery issue throughout our history. Okay, looking down, just wanted to show you, because I know this question is going to come up. A lot of Cape Town has very nice homes. As you saw, my host was modest, but very nice. But there are parts of town that are extremely poor. And the people from District 6, which would have been right in here, were moved wholesale. This is what we were talking about, where they just raised everything. Here's the Cape Town city center and the bay along here. But these people were moved into this area. And when we went out to Stellenbosch, we came back down this way because most of our folks lived in this area. And I wanted to show you just a couple that I took from the bus. So not all of Cape Town has gorgeous homes. Of course, there are neighborhoods like that too, but they didn't purposely take us to Cape Flats. So there is a segment of the population that doesn't live high. So another day, then we went to that southern point, Cape Point, and to the Cape of Good Hope. And that's way down here. So Cape Point is this one, and the Cape of Good Hope is this one. As I say, most of our folks lived in this area. This green is all national park, and it's very mountainous. Of course, the Table Mountain is part of this, and all these mountains that you're seeing. So these are all part of Table Mountain Park. Cape Town itself being up here, and I'm sorry, Hog Bay, we're going to visit a little bit later too. So here we are back on our bus. We're stopping on our way down to the looking toward India across Big False Bay, and looking at these rocky shores. So our first stop was Cape Point, where we did have a funicular, or you could walk up. And they built a lighthouse. It says 249 meters above sea level, so it's pretty high up. That's the one we went to. This white flashing light could be seen, but the problem was that they have this cloud cover, this mist. So it was often up high and covering that lighthouse. So later on, they decided to build another lighthouse, which is farther down, closer to sea level. But that the old sea level, the old lighthouse is the one we went up to. This is a map that was at the Cape that shows where some of these shipwrecks were. As I was saying, they were carrying slaves and were carrying goods, of course. But there are lots of shipwrecks that are now being investigated. So from the lighthouse, you get a pretty good view of the land down below. This is straight down. And looking back towards the mainland. So some beautiful views from there, a couple of our folks up at the lighthouse. And our baboons are back, more wildlife. We saw some ostriches as well. These are a few of these houses were Cape houses from the early days. This would be 16 and 1700s. This one looks like it's been kept up pretty well. And there is ostriches and little folks running around in here. We always have to have a gathering at the sign, right? So we went over just not too far to the Cape of Good Hope, the most southwestern point in the African continent, another group picture. I don't know what it is about signs. But anyway, this would be the Cape of Good Hope. Our club was named the Cape of Good Hope Club. And some of our folks went down walking on the rocks. You see some of these seabirds out here sunning themselves. And there we're getting very close now to Boulder Beach, where we're going to see our Cape penguins. They are the African penguins, not to be confused with the ones in Australia or Antarctica or in Argentina. I've seen the other two kind, not Antarctica, the other two. So there are two kinds of African penguins, very similar in look, that live here. You can see a little bit of difference in them, maybe, if you're looking closely. So the penguins you'll often see in pairs because they do mate for life. Boulder Beach is home to about 3,000 African penguins, both species live there. And it is closed off. You have to come to a walkway up above where you can see them. And they migrated from somewhere just in the 80s. I'm not sure where they were before that, but there are a bunch of them there, and they're kind of enclosed in this little beach. And they're only found, this kind of them are only found in South Africa and Namibia, which is to the the northwest of South Africa on the west coast. So we had to view them from above, unlike Argentina, where we were able to walk out among the penguins, which was kind of fine. But they wouldn't let us do that at this point. So right next to it is a neighborhood. So they're kind of in this bay. And look at this deep blue ocean. This is really the color. I did not fool with that color. And there's another neighborhood over on the other side. So occasionally you'll see one walking down the street or over in your neighborhood, but they mostly stay here in this area. So this is on the other side. And this is a real, swimming beach. But yes, you will see the penguin every once in a while over here. So right next to that beach is a restaurant where we had lunch, a nice one with a nice view. And of course, our little girls who were doing their jingle jangles and drums and things like that, things to see. Simontown is along that east coast on False Bay, where, as I said, a lot of our folks lived, our hosts. Nice beach there as well, with little changing houses, very colorful. One of them lived up in these hills just beyond where I was standing. So this bay has a nice view from his house. He runs a little B&B, and a couple of our people stayed there with him. And we had one of our dinners. There was plenty of room for all of us to be seated. And down right along the coast are some of the older buildings that would have been shops back in the 1800s at least. This one maybe even 1700s. So along the beach, there are the older homes. We took a trip out to the wine country, which would be Stellenbosch. There are other ones. And this first map that I showed you, there was a road leading off to the east, which is called the Garden District Road. And there are plenty of vineyards all through this southern part of Cape Town, around Cape Town. So Stellenbosch is just about 30 miles north of Cape Town, not very far out, kind of back behind Table Mountain. More than 100 wineries in this area. And we stopped at two of them. The Spear Winery estate was founded in 1683. It says the property was given to Arno Jans in 1692, though he lived there since 1683. And then the winery itself was founded in 1692. And it wasn't just a winery. Some of these wineries really have gotten into the tourist business. Just a sign on one of their buildings, they have all these different buildings it's an event destination. You can have your wedding there or parties. There's all kinds of stuff to do and look at, and very lovely property. So we had some time to explore on our own. It was really very pretty. And of course, all the mountain view are all around it. Lots of artwork. Of course, there was wine tasting, and you could buy wine, of course. Our group having a little sniff, and lots of awards, of course, one of the restaurants. This is an interesting rock. Notice that there's a kind of a line across it, and then this one too. It's actually from two different times in history where the rocks slid together, and they make a sound. And what they're doing with their hands, There, if you rub your hands, it shows you, rub your hands on either side without touching it, it starts making a sound. It hums. So it's this fracture in the rock that does this, these 260 million year rocks. And of course, there are places for native crafts. And I'm always impressed by African crafts because they do recycle a lot. I've seen things on Facebook and places, they're making things out of old tires and out of flip-flops and all sorts of stuff. And here you see a bunch of stuff made out of corks, perfect for a winery with Anita, our guide, and this one out of bottle caps. So they're very, very good at reusing things, made of colored wire. Lots of artwork. There's a building that has artwork inside, and of course, a lot of it out on the grounds itself. So the region produces over 1 million liters of wine annually. That's a lot of wine. It's shipped all over. This one I threw in just we're having a little fun. This guy is from Australia, 91. A couple others of our group. He's going to appear later on. I wanted to show you what he was up to. So our second stop was for lunch on the Spice Route, it was called, Spice Route Winery. And again, it had a lot of things to offer. The wine tasting, of course, we had lunch there, but look at all the things you could do. You could not only taste wine, you could taste chocolate, which we did. You could taste ice cream, pizzerias, all sorts of things, Pilates, have a massage, all kinds of things. Really, they cater to tourists, of course. And here's one of those wall tile things. And the one I showed you earlier was from the other end of this building. Just a couple of pictures from the grounds, very nice place. So here's this one, the one that I showed you earlier was right behind me on this loge or whatever you call it. So the town of Stellenbosch, we were in the Stellenbosch region. It is a little Dutch town way out, about 30 miles, the second oldest town in South Africa from 1679. This is the square in Stellenbosch. A couple of things there, the courthouse, I'm sorry, the city hall rather, and an old church from 1777, the being Dutch Reformed Church, if you're interested in the religion. A couple of new church. This is the new church in town on the square. You see a lot of Dutch style houses. By that, you'll see this. You might see this in Amsterdam or Delft or one of the Dutch towns as well. So it has a nice little museum where you can see things from the early era. And also there are homes that are open to that you can visit, and you can start with the oldest kind. This would have been a dirt floor earlier, but the thatch roof and the bedroom upstairs to the sleeping room, the one room kind of home. And then earlier, and as the Dutch became more prosperous with growing these crops, and of course they're importing things, and they're a way station, they're growing wine. They became more prosperous and started importing things from the old home country. And you'll see that the houses got nicer and nicer, as well as the furniture. So some of these folks were doing pretty well once they got better established. And here are the outsides of what some of them look like. There were four houses, I guess, that we went in. There was just, you can walk from one to the other and had a guide at each house. So in the town itself, there were art galleries, of course, and places to eat and plenty of things to buy. Plenty of native crafts. I like the little baboon in his tie. He's so cute. Don't be fooled though. One of my favorite places, of course, would be the garden. The gardens. I love the gardens. So Kirsten Bosch Garden is well known all over the world. It's set right up against this mountain. The mountains on the back of it. Here you get a good idea too with how mountainous the region is in Hog Bay. Now this map is not pointing north, it's pointing west. Actually, north would be this direction and the center of town would be this direction. So they've kind of tipped this map to show you Hog Bay, which we're going to go to as well, and the Kirsten Bosch Garden. And it is a beautiful garden founded in 1913, 1,300 acres. Compare that to the Dallas Arboretum at 66 acres. So it's quite large, and it has not only the gardens, but these open areas, forest, nature reserve, conservatory with plants from all over the world. And since there are so many plants that grow only here, it's really a marvelous place to visit. Most of the plants don't grow anywhere else. They're right here, even though they have imported some from Australia and other places. So we had a guided tour, and I'm afraid I can't tell you what they all are because I have no idea what they all are. Can't remember them all. Some of the Zimbabwe sculptures, we've had these here in Dallas as well, and I've seen some in Colorado as well. But the setting for the garden is just so dramatic with the mountains behind them and all this greenery, and it's just a fabulous place to go walking or have a picnic or something like that. Just lots of people out strolling around and lots of room to do that. There are lots of, there were dinosaurs in this area. You can see they're about the size of a dog, so not very big ones. But they've found the bones here, and they made some little sculptures to show the kind of dinosaurs that were here at that time. One of the fun things in this garden was this walkway that's up in the treetops. So you get a different view completely of what the area looks like down below. There was a kids group in this tree. I'm showing you only a portion. This is like a tenth of this tree. It was a huge tree with all these branches low to the ground. And there was a kid in every branch, probably about 40 kids up in this tree. The proteas also come from South Africa. They're native to there, about 12, 15 varieties, different varieties. And our guide is showing us one of the varieties there. They're really pretty plant. So that's one plant that I can tell you about, but not too much of the rest of them. Forest pool, again, some of these rocks along walkways along here. Lots of succulents because they have mainly a dry climate. It's the kind where it's a dry season and a wet season. So even the wet season is just a little bit of rain a day, really pretty dry. So moving down to Hog Bay, we were there for lunch and we were on our own for a while. It's a protected bay, good for small marinas and lots of sailboats, various sea life around, lots of seals in the bay. And again, I'm going to show a little video of some of the seals. I started seeing them coming in, and you see them, because this guy feeds them. So they know where lunch is. So they're coming down. So bear with us just a minute. I was quite surprised here in just a minute. I was throwing out some fish to them. I missed him. So I guess he's a favorite of this guy. He gets his fish. These kids don't know whether to be afraid of him or what. So he's feeding him. So they're looking for a handout. They know who their suppliers are. So we had some restaurants in the area. And of course, the local crafts. Just a couple of close-ups. These wooden bowls were made, of course, from locals. And these are ostrich eggs. And of course, wooden carvings. This was our last stop, the tea bag factory. And that sounds like such a weird thing. What's a tea bag factory? Actually, these are dried out tea bags, used tea bags that are sent to the tea bag factory, and they make all this art stuff out of them. So it's hard to see this as a sign, recycled tea bags. The original tea bag designs is what the name of it is. So people, school groups and church groups send them their tea bags, bales of them. And they make things out of them. Like these are trays that these tea bags are put in and they're lacquered on top. They make all kinds of stuff. This company is one of these little startup local things, craft items. The artists work out of their homes, mostly women. And then the workers assemble different things here and finish them off. So they're showing us some of the things that they make, different pictures. Here are some of the little animals, decorative items, hanging things, showed us stuff that they're doing. Let's see, here's some coffee cups and mugs. These on the shelf. I have one like this, not this design. They're all different designs. You see the little coasters. She's got a little candle holder that she's holding up. But they make all this stuff here, and it's really beautiful and very good in that it employs local people. Here's one you see is still missing this corner, and it needs another picture on it to be finished off. And then after we finished that, we were able to have our cup of tea out on the back porch. Here's our coordinator for the Cape of Good Hope Club. And our farewell dinner. And here I am with my hosts, Hilda and Ian. Hilda and Ian visited me in Dallas in 2018. And we kind of arranged this trip. They invited us, the Dallas Club, to come, and we requested the Cape of Good Hope Club. So that's how that got arranged. So I already knew them when I went and asked to stay with them. And we're still in contact, of course. Here they are with us and with them. And with Verna, who was their coordinator, I was the coordinator for Dallas and their president. So here is the flag of South Africa, and we had to bring one from Texas. Now this is the boomerang. I have to tell you about the boomerang project in Friendship Force. This is a whole list of clubs where this boomerang has been. An Australian club went to this first place, maybe Germany, say, and gave it to that club. And the next time Germany, maybe Hanover, Germany, went to Bangkok, they took it to Bangkok, and so on and so on. So this boomerang has been around the world to about 15 different clubs. And we had just been to Australia, so I knew we wouldn't be going anytime soon. So I gave it to Tom, whom you met in the earlier picture at the bus, kidding around, the 90-year-old one gent from Australia. And he took it back to his club. And when he got back, his newspaper, he's from a small town that I can't pronounce, and they wrote an article about him and showed him with the boomerang and on this picture. And so he got to do that. And he was famous in his own town. So we had a little fun and dinner and dancing and a little bit. I don't know, but mine was pretty loud. You get the idea. So lots of fun was had by all. Let's put it that way. So some people went on to the safari. Some people did other things on their own, or one couple went to Madagascar from there. So we split up after that party. So this is the end of our journey to Cape Town. And sorry about the glitch at the beginning. I have no idea how that happened or what happened, but glad that it didn't happen during the middle of it. So we're—
Yes, really. There are a couple of questions.
Yeah.
One was, I think it was from Gail, was wondering the origin of the name Cape Hope. Do you know that?
Cape of Good Hope. Probably because of so many shipwrecks. If you got around the Cape of Good Hope, you were doing well. I've been. I cannot get my picture back on, so I'm glad that there it goes.
Okay. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, problem with that camera all day too. Anyway, I'm glad the presentation. That's my own information for it, but I'm just guessing.
Okay, she also asked if you know, has equality improved since the end of apartheid, or is there still a lot of white privilege there?
I thought that would probably come up, and we sort of asked that ourselves. Now, there were different places during apartheid that were set out to live, where you had to live. And as I say, the whites had their own section. They basically moved everybody out, so it was a white section. Very nice homes and so forth. And the colored section where we were, and a black section in another part. And the thing is, after apartheid, as it was explained to us, you could live anywhere you wanted if you had the money to buy a house there, nobody's going to object. But think about it. If you've already paid for a house, you're probably going to stay where you are. So yes, there is some intermixing now in the last 20, 30 years, but not a whole lot. People are generally where they were during apartheid. There doesn't seem to be a problem with people intermixing. We were with whites and blacks and coloreds all the time. I think it's mainly where you live was the issue, and apartheid was set up around where you lived.
Interesting. Okay.
Whites are a minority at 16%. So they're the minority. But
Any other questions?
their Congress, their parliament is mostly black. It pretty much reflects the population. You know, it's a mixed population. Yeah, Gail has her hand up. Gail, you're muted though. Do you want to? Oh, she's saying, oh, she liked it. Okay. But somebody, if you want to talk, you're going to have to get your mute off if you want to ask something.
Okay. Yeah, we have a few things to say, which is I was totally shocked by what I learned apartheid was.
Yeah.
Extremely strict rules as to
Yes.
where you can go, when you could go. So you may work at someone's home, but you cannot sit down for dinner with them after work ended. You weren't allowed to be in their house. You weren't allowed to do anything with them. The three groups were not allowed at all. They were to mix at any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Different wages. So one low wage for the blacks, then a middle wage for the browns, and then higher wage for the whites. So there's three different levels of wages.
Yep.
So and also I always thought it was black and white. I never realized it was three different to it. So that was the other surprise with there.
Yeah, Indian from India are included in colored. If you anything other than black and white are included in coloreds. And but yes, you're right. And if you were colored or black during apartheid, there were, as you say, strict rules about what you could do. You had to carry a pass with you, and you had to show it to police every time you turn around. And so, you know, if you happen to be without your pass one day, they could lock you up. It was really very, very strict. And when Mandela and the National Congress started, African Congress started, they were doing nonviolent protests, and thousands of people would be locked up and they'd have to let them go. But it was for things like that. It was just like they were not carrying their pass. It was for things like that. An interesting book to read is A Long Walk to Freedom, which is the autobiography of Nelson Mandela that he wrote while he was at Robben Island and after he was out. A lot of what these rules that we're talking about and the protests involved are in that book. It's very good.
Another great book to read. We were told about it before we went, and we both read it. It was wonderful. A James Michener book, The Covenant.
And it,
The Covenant.
The history of all the different groups and just the history of the area.
Started back in the 1400s, and the whole entire history, the South Africa, all through the Dutch era and the wars, and right up till apartheid. So it was really fascinating.
You end up really understanding.
Yeah.
It's the story of a family and how they evolved through all the different eras. We did get to go to Robben Island, and what was particularly poignant, all of the tour guides on Robben Island were former inmates. Mm-hmm. You can ask them any questions as you go through about what life was like there. Also, Nelson Mandela, you alluded to the fact that he worked in a limestone quarry, and many of them he included were somewhat blinded because of the white light on the limestone walls. Yeah, blinded them.
Yeah, it was much worse when he went. Conditions were very, very bad when he went, but he was still agitating and, writing letters daily and getting other people to do that. He every minute he spent was spent on something. He didn't sit around feeling sorry for himself.
Right.
He was constantly looking for better conditions while they were there and did get them, slowly but surely. It sometimes would take years to get something. Just
Also, yeah.
mattresses on the bed instead of sleeping on a board with no heat and things like that. And, just really very bad conditions to begin with. They were improved slightly.
Okay, you also alluded to the area that they moved people out of.
Just six.
District 6
So they moved them out into the,
was flats.
say into the flats, into like desert.
Yes.
And they had to cope by finding pieces of cardboard or aluminum or anything they could to build shanty houses. So we went to visit those areas when we were there on a tour, and it still is the same. I mean, people asked, has it changed? Well, one of the projects Mandela was working on is getting a house for each of those people. That was one of his things, and we were there.
Not happened yet. You saw that was in 2019, was that when that picture was taken from the
So
back?
we were there, we were
We were
there
there.
2009-ish, anyway, about 9 years ago. And hardly any of those houses had been built. They were still living in the same old shanties with, you had to go to a toilet down the street and there was no electricity, it was wires from house to house to house.
Right.
We visited a school there. So nothing really had changed up until when we were there.
It's true.
Yeah.
Another thing we found out is that there's always a water shortage, but there's also a shortage of electricity. And we're talking about our lack of electricity last winter in Texas. They shut off the electricity with rolling blackouts the whole time we were there. Our time for our neighborhood was from 8 to 9 p.m. in the evening. So if you had something you wanted to do, you do it before 8 o'clock and they shut off the electricity. And somebody else maybe then the next couple of blocks would be 9 to 10. They did that all day long.
Yeah, it's called rolling brownouts.
Yeah, rolling. Well, these were blackouts. They were completely blacked out. No electricity at all for your area.
Yeah.
A quick
True,
question.
all the people that we were spread out in different homes. So they all complained about that. So we don't know how lucky we are when we actually have electricity, when we flip a switch and something comes on, because you can't count on that then. And sometimes it would go beyond what it was supposed to. It wasn't always.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So Stan and Sandra, were you on a tour or were you on your own?
Yeah, we were on a tour that we thought was absolutely wonderfully priced and wonderfully done. Now, people had told us for years and years we never could afford to go on a safari because, it's $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 a person. And we found one with including airfare and all the touring. So we toured Johannesburg, Cape Town, and around three or four safaris. Together with the airfare, it's around $3,000 a person, including the airfare.
We couldn't believe it.
Believe it. It was with Gate One Travels.
And it
we
was great.
highly recommended it. We stayed in Kruger National Park for 2 days. And I said, and we did 3 or 4 safaris. So it was, and they did a lot of history about Mandela. We got to see all the different houses that he lived in, the one he lived in with his wife, the fancy one when he got out, the one on Robben Island. Anyway, so I recommend it highly.
In January, we'll be in Cape Town and we'll tour around there for almost a week, I guess. And then we're taking a cruise that goes up the Indian Ocean up through, the Seychelles Islands and up the coast of Africa to the Seychelles and Reunion and ends in Dubai. Now, that is, of course, if this virus doesn't stop us.
Yeah.
And has anybody got any idea what the chances of that happening?
Who knows? Who knows?
That's right. Yeah. So I'd say it's 50-50 chance right at the moment. Maybe.
So You'll get there eventually, but if you like to read, start reading now. The book is like 700 pages long, or you can listen to it maybe on an audio tape, but absolutely really gave us the sense of the place before we got there.
Which book?
The Covenant by Mishner.
Oh, Mishner, James Mishner. Okay, yeah.
Another really good book, not necessarily about South Africa. I think it's really set in Zimbabwe or somewhere else. It's called Cry the Beloved Country. It's an older book by Ellen Payne.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, it's fiction, but it's not very long. But it does give you an idea of a white settler farmer and his black neighbors, and what happened in a drought. And they each had a son who was involved with each other, and what happened with that. But it's very heartbreaking, and I think says a lot about relations between people, and what we hope to be.
Yeah, I just remembered a baboon story. I've told it before to this forum, but I don't know if everybody was there. On the trip when the tour went down to the Cape of Good Hope, we passed an area that had a lot of baboons, and our guide told us the story that they were campers. So you mentioned a state park or something, a national park on the way down. So he stopped his car and he started emptying it out to set up his campsite. And at that point, they had maybe a 15-month-old baby in one of those little baby carriers, the old-fashioned little cribs on the back seat. So a baboon ran into the car and grabbed his daughter and was leaving with her. And he had to think fast. He took a bag of cookies and threw it at the baboon.
He ran after the baboon and he threw the cookies
at him. So the baboon grabbed the cookies and dropped the kid, dropped the baby. So he got his daughter back, but her whole life, whenever she did anything wrong, he would say, should have left you with the baboon.
By the way, one of the pictures, your early pictures, you said was a marmot.
Yeah.
If
That's what I was told.
if I got a close look at that, I think it's really a hyrax.
Oh, could be. I don't know my hyrax marmots very well.
And the hyrax is an unusual animal. It's actually related to elephants.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Well, that's what I was told, so I don't know.
Okay, well, maybe it was.
I can send you a picture and give me a better description.
Oh, and then you just reminded me of one more thing, because I started looking at safaris again to take the grandchildren.
Yeah.
And I was pleased that the one we took, we stayed in hotels all the way, where I see a lot of the ones in Tanzania and other places, you're tenting outside, which some people might find very exciting. But at our ages, I like the safety of a hotel and a door, and not, bashing into my tent at night.
Well,
Some of those
have that
tenting
problem.
excursions are quite good because
they're
the
pretty good.
tents are quite luxurious.
They are, and they're up a couple of steps, and they're not. They usually don't go up the steps. The monkeys will get on the roof, but that's about it. They don't come in.
Of course, when the hyenas start howling just outside your tent, you kind of are a little concerned about how
Elephants
secure
too.
you are.
Elephants too. You can hear them bumping against the side, and they hear them crunch.
Right.
Do they tell you not to have food in the tents like they do when you go camping in North America? Like not to have any food and to hang it outside or anything like that?
Didn't know.
Okay.
Nothing that has a scent to it.
I don't know. We didn't have any problem. We didn't have any food.
Can you
Mary.
hear me? Can
I'm
you
sorry.
hear me?
Yes.
I don't have my video on because I'm traveling down to Florida and it's dark outside here. But we went to Tanzania about 10 years ago with one grandson, and we're going to go again this June with a different grandson. And I have a story about food in the tent. I'd taken a surprise little Ziploc baggie of candies to put on my husband's and my grandson's pillow each night, making them think that it was from the people, our people that we were traveling with. And one night, somebody else discovered it, and it was not a human. So, yeah, you do not want candies.
I don't know. We didn't have anything, so I can't really answer to that. I know in
Yep.
camping in the Adirondacks, there were signs everywhere, you know, don't leave food anywhere there, but that was bears mainly.
Well, this was a little critter that kept unzipping our back window of our tent.
Really.
Oh, wow.
And it would
Wow.
zip it up about, 10 inches or 12 inches. And I never could figure out what kind of a critter it was, but we laughed about it a long time.
Big-
Uh,
It was-
Yeah, maybe we should take safety pins to
prevent monkeys.
zipper tight.
Yeah, anyway,
Monkeys are pretty clever. They might have done that.
Very true. Well, thank you, Mary. That was very, very interesting and wonderful pictures. I really do appreciate your sharing it with all of us.